There's a moment, barely a breath, when you wake in the middle of the night and forget what time is. The world feels paused, like reality itself is holding its breath. The hum of the fridge becomes a heartbeat. Streetlights cast halos across the ceiling like ancient suns trapped in glass. And in that stillness, there's no past, no future, only the weightless now, stretched like silk between dreams. I used to lie there, eyes open, watching the shadows shift, wondering if time was something real, or something we just agree to believe in, like a story we keep telling ourselves to make sense of the slow burn of change. Once, in that hush, I saw her silhouette, just a faint outline, standing at the window, her hair catching the orange haze of a sodium lamp. She wasn't moving. She didn't have to. The way her breath fogged the glass said enough. The world kept going, even when we didn't. I remember thinking, what if we could step outside of this ticking world just once? Not to run, not to escape, just to understand. To see time not as a river, but as a shape, a place, a labyrinth where every turn is a memory, and maybe, just maybe, some doors still open backward. We were taught that time moves like an arrow, always forward, always away from us. But that's not how the universe sees it. Time bends, time stretches. Time, under pressure, begins to behave like something alive. The faster you move, the slower it flows. That's not poetry, that's Einstein. Near the edge of a black hole, 1 hour could equal 7 years to someone far away. Gravity twists the fabric of time like fingers gripping a bedsheet. And somewhere between those folds, the laws begin to blur. She once stood at the mouth of an old observatory, her hands resting on rusted railings, watching stars that had already died. Light takes time to travel, and in that we see the past. Night after night, sky after sky. Our eyes are always late to the truth. But it's not hopeless. The math behind time dilation, behind Lorentz transformations and wormholes, isn't fantasy. It's real. Real enough to send atomic clocks into orbit and watch them age differently. Real enough to make GPS work. Real enough to tell us time is not fixed. It responds. It shifts. It can, under the right conditions, be crossed. But the price is steep. And the question that haunts me isn't whether we can travel through time, but whether we should. Because every answer we find uncovers another question. Every equation hums with a deeper unknown. And the closer we get, the more I wonder, what if time isn't something we move through, but something moving through us? Sometimes I imagine time not as a flow, but as a vast, motionless structure, an infinite cathedral of moments, each one frozen like stained glass in the dark. Past, present, future, not lined up, but stacked, layered, coiled together like threads in a tapestry we're too close to see. If we could step back just a little, maybe we'd see the pattern. Maybe we'd see ourselves. I remember walking through an abandoned train station once. Dust floated in shafts of amber light. Ticket booths were empty. The air held the cold scent of stone and rain. And there on the platform, someone had left a child's mitten, still curled as if the hand had just slipped free. Time had moved on, but the moment had stayed. She walked beside me that day, her fingers tracing the rusted rail as if it were a line of verse. Neither of us spoke. We didn't have to. The silence was full of echoes, of people gone, of choices made, of lives that once moved here and stopped. If time travel were real, would we be tourists, thieves, pilgrims? The past is not just history, it's holy. We think of it as something behind us. But what if it's still there, waiting, not asleep, not dead, just quiet? A garden overgrown, a bell still ringing in the cold. Would we dare enter it? Could we stand to leave it again? I used to think I wanted to see the beginning of the world. Now I wonder if I could bear seeing my own childhood, exactly as it was. Not better, not different. Just true, and I'm not sure which would hurt more, going back or coming home. We speak of time travel like explorers, charting invisible maps, sketching bridges to distant eras. But the moment we step into the past, the ground shifts. Reality folds. Cause begins to eat its own tail. The paradox arrives, silent as breath on a mirror. If you change the past, do you change the future? If you touch your own history, do you disappear? The questions are more than riddles, they're traps. And in their reflections, we find ourselves breaking. I remember once standing in a room of endless mirrors, an art installation, all angles and echoes. She was with me, her reflection multiplying into hundreds, each one watching the other. And for a moment, I couldn't tell which one was truly her or me. That's what the grandfather paradox does. It turns certainty into mirage. If I go back and prevent something, do I vanish before I act? And if I don't vanish, was it ever prevented at all? The equations resist clarity. Causality stutters. The self becomes a hall of refracted light. Some theories propose multiple timelines, each choice a fork, each action a birth. But that idea doesn't comfort me. It divides the soul. If I go left and she goes right in another branch, which of us is real? Which of us is lost? I used to dream of changing one thing, one tiny moment I never spoke, never acted, never reached. But if I went back and whispered into that silence, would I still be the person who needed to? Or would I be a stranger, haunting my own life like a ghost with no anchor? Maybe that's the danger. Not that time breaks, but that we do. And in trying to heal the past, we tear the present into pieces we can't hold. There's a weight in wanting to return. A tenderness, yes, but also a quiet desperation, like holding on to the warmth of a hand already slipping away. We crave time travel not to explore, but to undo, to mend what broke, to speak what was unsaid. But maybe time resists not because it can't bend, but because it mustn't. Because permanence, true permanence, destroys what it means to live. I remember a dream I had once, where the sky was an ocean of still frames, each memory hanging like a lantern in the dark. She moved through them barefoot, silent, brushing her fingers across the glass of each suspended moment, never stopping, never reaching in, just watching. And I understood, even in sleep, that if she touched them, they would burn. Time is sacred because it fades. The beauty of a sunrise lies in its passing. The meaning of a choice lives in the impossibility of reversal. That's why we ache, why we tell stories, why we build monuments out of loss. If we could relive the best day of our lives again and again, would it still feel like joy? Or would it rot, like fruit left too long in the sun? Some physicists say time's arrow may be born from entropy, from the universe's relentless hunger for disorder, that every second is just a statistical shift toward chaos. But I don't believe that's all it is. I think time moves forward not because it must, but because it's kind. It grants us forgetfulness. It gifts us change. It frees us from the gravity of regret. And maybe it doesn't allow return not as punishment, but as mercy. Because the truth is, we're not meant to stay anywhere too long, not even in the arms of our memories. Time travel was never about machines. It was always about longing, the hunger to reach through the veil of before and feel it living again beneath our hands. But maybe we've misunderstood what it means to travel. Because isn't memory a kind of time machine? Isn't every photograph, every scar, every faded breath on winter glass a portal? She once stood in a field of tall grass, the wind brushing around her like invisible silk. She didn't move, but I swear the air shimmered. As if that moment, her gaze, her stillness, the golden hour folding over her shoulders was etched outside of sequence. A moment not just remembered, but held. I stood yards away, but I felt it like gravity. Not the kind that pulls you down, but the kind that reminds you where you are. And maybe that's the truth of it. We don't need to flee the present to touch eternity. It's here, in the quiet gestures, in the light through the window, in the way the world smells after rain. We are not outside of time. We are time, our thoughts, our choices, our breath. The future isn't waiting. It's growing inside us, shaped by everything we notice, everything we love, everything we dare to imagine. And when we wonder what might be, when we whisper, "What if?" we are already crossing boundaries. Not into other years, but into deeper versions of ourselves. That's the gift. That's the danger. That's the miracle. Because time is not something we conquer, it's something we become. And now, as I watch the stars blink quietly overhead, as the earth turns beneath my feet, as I listen to the rhythm of blood and wind and thought, I can't help but ask one more question. Just one more. What if this moment is the only time machine we'll ever need? I used to think time was a line, straight, unforgiving, something you could fall behind on, something you could waste. But I've come to believe it's more like a field, shifting, layered, full of echoes and footprints we don't realize we're leaving. Sometimes you feel it, standing in a room you haven't entered in years. The scent of an old book, a song that lands in your chest like a stone dropped through water. Time doesn't speak in sentences, it speaks in pulses, in pressure, in presence. And maybe that's the true form of time travel. The moment you see her again, Not as a memory, but as something alive in the way sunlight spills through the trees. She's not looking at you. She never was. She's looking past you, through you, as if she knows what you haven't yet remembered, that you were always supposed to be here, that everything led to this. Maybe time isn't about changing what was. Maybe it's about seeing what is, with a sharper gaze, a fuller breath. Maybe the gift isn't in going back, but in knowing how to be here, now, completely. There are moments, rare and flickering, when the noise stops, when the page turns slower, when the world aligns, not by force but by grace. These are the real machines, not gears and circuits, but glimpses and silences, and we must learn to notice them, to honor them, because one day someone will remember this very second, the way the air felt, the way you sat, the way the sky dimmed just before night. You will become their echo, their proof, their story. And isn't that the most human kind of time travel? To be remembered, to ripple, to remain. So if you're listening, wherever you are in the spiral, pause, look around, feel the rhythm in your chest, the breath you didn't notice until now, the light shifting just slightly across the wall. You're not lost. You're not too late. You are exactly when you were meant to be. And what if this isn't the end of the story, but the beginning of another question? What if the future is already remembering you?